now. Okay, hi. Welcome back to the Black Carnivore channel. And I'm here with Arien, otherwise known as Real Knowledge, and we are going to hang out and just have a fun conversation tonight. I know last night we actually gave a lot of information and probably a lot to digest. I'm actually in the middle of working on turning those, the video that we did, or making smaller, much shorter videos that are really just kind of get to the point and make it super easy. So yeah, that's what I've been working on, but not ready yet. The art takes, it takes its time. It goes at its own pace. But today we thought we would answer some questions and just chat about some stuff that we found interesting and go from there. Hey, Studsy Nubian, great to see you. So glad you're here. Awesome. And everybody who is here, please hit the like button and subscribe, of course. And, what's the other one? Oh, hit the little bell notification. So, or the bell icon so you get notification every time we go live.
There it is.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, Seedless, how you doing? Hey, Virginia, what up? Nice. So why don't we dive in? Why don't we go ahead and talk about this first experiment that we were, or we're in the process of doing. So, Arien, why don't you go ahead?
So, this started the night of, so this was 2 days ago, I think, after that live. And I think I was telling you about my sleep, I guess. I don't remember how exactly we got here, but we decided that initially, we both were going to stop drinking coffee. I know for me, it was because I wanted to get my sleep back to regulated. I hadn't realized that my sleep had been messed up basically since the pandemic started. And I couldn't really figure out why. I thought like, oh, I'm eating differently somehow, or I'm more strict on carnivore now. Like, I had no idea what was going on. And then it was just like one conversation, and I realized, oh, well, I am drinking somewhere from 4 to 6 cups of full strength coffee every day now, where I would have drank maybe 1 or 2 cups on most days before, when I was actually traveling to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not sleeping isn't fun, or like the sleep not being good. And you do kind of get used to it. You don't realize that it's happening, and it just feels kind of normal. And you're like, oh, this is a little bit off, but I don't know what it could be. And you just keep going.
Yeah. I would say I had the same experience. So I didn't realize that I wasn't getting good sleep. And then when I stopped drinking coffee, it was like, I basically walked around in a daze for like a month. I mean, but there were a lot of things I had quit at the same time, so there were a number of reasons. But it was like I was catching up on a lot of sleep debt. And then, boom, when I got caught up, it was like, oh, I'm awake.
Yeah.
More awake than I have been in a long time.
And the weird part is, so I'm only 2 days in now. The first day, I woke up with a headache. That went away in a few hours. But then by about 4 or 5 o'clock, like, I got really tired and just like took a nap before that live, or no, it was before yesterday's Zoom call. And it's not like I woke up from the nap like really rested and just ready to go. But then today woke up, I feel like the sleep was better, but I still didn't wake up rested. So I guess I've still got sleep debt that I'm dealing with. And I did get tired, but I didn't take a nap today.
Yeah. It definitely takes a while to get caught up. I know some people, say that there's no such thing, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't agree. I think that you can, you get to the point where there is a marked difference when you finally kind of get caught up and you really wake up. So I know some people in the chat are asking about Deborah. I know we miss her too. We really can't wait for her to come back. So she's just getting caught up on some stuff. but she will be back soon enough. And
Miss you,
but
Deb.
yeah. But I love hanging out with Arien, and I think that we have some really cool conversations too. And we have quite a few people in here, so go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get back into it.
It's fine.
So you're still feeling a little dopey, having come off the coffee, but I mean, just be honest. It's a little
Yeah.
dopey.
Yeah, a little something. I don't know. Definitely better today than yesterday, but yeah, not perfect yet. And I think the concept of sleep debt doesn't really exist in the terms of like, oh, you can just sleep forever in one night and you will make up for all the nights that you didn't sleep. Like, I think that's false, but I think you can build up a need for more sleep than you would need in any given night had you been sleeping a normal amount in the past.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. The thing that I thought was most interesting, and it really occurred to me is, the one, when you don't get enough sleep, it like cuts off various cycles of parts of your sleep cycle, and deep sleep is one of the ones that gets sacrificed most. For me specifically, because I think that part of my sleep happens earlier on in the evening, and if I'm not asleep at that time, I just don't get it. Even if I slept 8 hours, but later in the night, I just don't get that period. And so I feel like the most of the healing that goes on in the body is physically happening at that time. And so if I'm not sleeping during that time, there's a whole lot of things that just aren't getting their proper tune-up and the proper kind of repair. And so I feel like when you really start to get good quality sleep and you take out the things that obstruct your sleep cycle, your body really has a chance now. I mean, just like we talk about with thank you, Pandemic Carnivore. Just like we talk about with the oh my god,
See, talking about your lipstick threw you off.
I know.
It does look good, but now.
Thank you. But when we talk about all the things, all the benefits that come from eating a carnivore diet, and all the healing, like our body's desire to heal, right? So we're always in a state of trying to deal with the onslaughts that we give it. So when we stop putting those things in, and your body really has a chance to like deal with stuff, it's kind of amazing. Like it heals stuff, and you start to feel a lot better. So yeah.
And that takes time. It's not an instant process, and I think I didn't realize how long I had gone without that really happening.
Yeah, I don't think we really recognize that. And something I was talking about with someone earlier too is that I think that we as Black people deal with a lot of stress. And I don't think that is acknowledged as much as it needs to be. And if you think about the effects that cortisol and the stress hormones have on your body in terms of causing the inflammation and the symptoms that lead to metabolic derangement. I don't know, I'm skipping over my words. And also a dysregulation of the appetite. They talk about how cortisol makes you hungry, it creates belly fat, like all of these things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, on top of like whatever our regular life stress is. There's always that on top of it. And it really made me think that there's a lot going on for us, and we really do need to take the time to focus on basic self-care, and sleep is a major part of fixing things, and it's a major part of the carnivore diet, which we don't ever really talk about, but it is.
Yeah, I think that's what every once in a while I'll talk about, like how this is lifestyle, not just diet, and that's part of it. Like our best friend Tony Hampton talks about his nest, and well, not his nest, but his concept of nest, and the S in there is stress/sleep. Those have to be really high priorities. You can eat great, and if you're still overstressed or you're not sleeping, like you will still have health problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I see Mia writes, we sleep more in our lives than we are awake. That should tell us something. Um, a lot of it, yeah. I
More
mean,
than we're awake?
I don't know. I thought it was a third, or at least for adults, like a third of our life is spent asleep. But still, that's a lot of chunk of life.
It's a huge,
Which,
yeah.
yeah, which makes you think, how little we respect it. That is like the first thing to go when, we have other things to do or other things we want to do. And I see Virginia says, I love sleep. Yeah, I love sleep. But,
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't think that we respect it as much as we need to, which is why, starting to talk about coffee is, I think, really important. Now, meanwhile, I'm saying this as I have not
Show
quit
them.
coffee. Now, the other night when Arien and I spoke, I'm the one who's always talking about, I should quit coffee. I should quit coffee. And everyone's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is crazy. You and this dairy thing, you and this coffee thing. So, but then Arien decides to give it a try. And I'm like, yeah, I'm totally going to do it. So the next morning, I was like, after I had had 2 cups of coffee, I remembered that I was supposed to have been quitting. So.
Well, and you didn't want to, I think you felt like that day you hadn't drunk enough coffee to let that be your last day of coffee.
Well, I wanted to more savor the last cup. I mean, but I knew it was going to be my last. I mean, but, so I think it's important to recognize that it is a drug. Caffeine is not, it's not heroin, but it is a drug. It's addictive, and there is a physical response and a physical withdrawal, and there, definitely it's this transition period. So I'm kind of, like not looking forward to that. And this is why I'm always talking about everybody get your L-tyrosine, because it is, it really does take away that caffeine headache. I don't know about, well, Arien, you seem to be okay, but I would get these vicious headaches that were unending until the caffeine was out of my system. So, it was horrible for me, but you seem to, weather it just fine. So.
And I've quit coffee once or twice before. I guess at that time it wasn't really quitting. It was just like, I didn't realize that I was drinking so much, and then out of nowhere, I decided to not have some for a day or two. And yeah, the withdrawal symptoms were pretty light for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, lucky you then. Lucky you. For me, not so much. But yes, so many of you have noted, yes, I am drinking a cup of coffee. But my sleep is all messed up. So yes. Absolutely. And hopefully tomorrow I will actually begin. Now, the other thing that I did, and I think this is part of the problem, is that I really do like to have something warm to drink in the morning. That's just, a thing that I do. So today I had a couple of, I had gotten some chuck roast that was very, very, very tough when I tried to cook it in the air fryer. You laugh.
People, if you guys had seen 8A trying to eat this chuck roast.
Oh, yeah, you were there. You saw it. Yeah.
Oh, it was sad.
It was inevitable.
It was tragic.
It was inedible. So I decided anyway to go back, and I pulled out my Instapot, which I have not used in a long, long time, and I went ahead and I made it. And I made a bunch. I put some extra bones, marrow in there, and a lot of water, and I made delicious, stewed beef, I guess. And I added a little bit of collagen too, a collagen powder, because I didn't have really, I didn't have a lot of bones with a lot of collagen to make a really nice broth. So I added that to it. It made it a little thicker. It was great, but I think I was really missing something hot and liquid. So tomorrow morning I will have some broth, and that will be, that'll be how I start. So that's the plan.
Okay. I did have, yesterday I didn't drink anything hot. Today I had a really watered down black tea. Mm-hmm. And then later on in the afternoon I had a cup of herbal tea.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because, I think I like hot stuff too. I didn't realize that about myself before recently.
Yeah. Okay, so Abigail says, glad we're talking about this. I've noticed my sleep is off since starting. I haven't been asleep the last 2 weeks. Could it be electrolyte imbalance?
She said she hasn't been asleep at all since
Mm-hmm.
then.
I wonder how much you're eating. I know people get really into the whole fasting thing, or just maybe not even eating enough, and that alone can actually get your body to produce more cortisol and other stress hormones, which would make you feel restless and like you can't sleep.
I could see that.
And sometimes, especially for people who have trouble sleeping and have trouble sleeping, just having, I'm not into snacking, but having a little bit of food before bed. If you have very high ketones, just eating a little bit will bring it down, and that will help you to sleep better, because really the ketones can cause you to have, a little bit more cortisol production. So, I don't know, I would try that. And I see Jocelyn says, when I first started carnivore, I was sleeping well, and over the past week, I increased the amount of coffee, and now I'm not sleeping well.
It's the same thing as me, man. Like, I lately can't get to sleep before 12 o'clock, and that used to be easy. And I'm still waking up at the same time, so it's less sleep overall. It's not good.
Yeah. Oh, and Mia says, I just had roast extremely tough, and I had to eat it piece by piece over a week, so didn't want to waste it.
Oh.
Yeah, totally. I got it. I wouldn't want to either, so that was why I pulled out the Instapot. But it was actually really good, so. Ellen says, my sleep has improved since starting carnivore. That's awesome.
Good.
So, yeah, I mean, generally when you start eating better and, you start taking care of yourself, like, sleep is one of the first things that's really going to recover. I mean, if you think about, something we do a third of the day, like, I would imagine our bodies are like, yes, finally.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get back into our proper rhythm.
Yeah. Mine was great for a really long time. It's just recently.
Yeah. Oh, see, now Bliss says if she doesn't eat enough, she doesn't rest well at all. Yeah, absolutely. And if I fast going into not the first night, but the second night, I can't sleep more than like 3 or 4 hours. And then it's like, oh.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's like just too much ketones floating around?
And I think the stress hormones from fasting. And so, I'm just like, I wake up and it's like, okay, it's daytime. No, not daytime, but I'm up. So,
I do notice that I kind of feel like eating a little bit, like past 11 o'clock, like just a couple pieces of jerky and I'm happy, but I don't really want an empty stomach that late.
Yeah. It's hard. Sometimes it can be hard to go to sleep on an empty stomach too. So it's all about a balance and trying to figure out how to make the sleep and the fasting work. Okay. Let's see. So how long are you planning on doing the no coffee experiment, Arien?
I want to at least go 2 weeks, and I figure that's enough time for all of the coffee, all the caffeine to get out my system, and for my sleep to, if the caffeine was the problem, my sleep, I think should get better in that time. Like it should go back to normal in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, when I stopped drinking coffee, I stopped drinking alcohol and coffee at the same time. And I think alcohol, contributes significantly to sleep debt. So
yes,
even if you're, prone for 7 or 8 hours a night, that does not mean that you're actually getting sleep while you have alcohol in your system. So I think, for me, it was like, I feel like it was like 6 weeks before I like fully came out of my stupor. So, but I may have had more sleep debt than you. So, perhaps, hopefully 2 weeks is kind of what you need.
Yeah. And
we'll see.
I'm pretty sure that if I do go back to it, I'll probably start making it weaker and limit myself as well. Because it's not even the caffeine. Like, I don't drink coffee for the caffeine. The caffeine just happens to come with it. So making it weaker wouldn't really bother me.
Okay. Well, good. All right. So, well, 2 weeks from now, let's touch base again. You tell me how you're feeling, and hopefully, I will have gotten on the bandwagon myself.
Man, if you don't start this like tomorrow or the day after,
I know you're gonna kill me, and
right?
rightfully so. Rightfully so. Um, I know Carnivore Mystic is asking about decaf coffee. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it doesn't taste the same, and there's something missing. And
Yeah.
to me, that's my addiction to caffeine. It's like, this is not it. I don't want this. This
And
tastes like dirt. I want the dirt that makes my head go woo.
and I've thought about that. Actually, before I drank the black tea today, I looked up a chart of like all the different kinds of tea from herbal with no caffeine in it at all the way to coffee. And it was saying black tea is somewhere from half to a quarter as strong and as coffee. And decaf was like barely any caffeine in it. And I'm like, I could just go decaffeinated, but I don't. Yeah, I remember it not tasting. There's something about the taste of coffee that is lost when all the caffeine is gone.
And it's, well, see, now I had raised this point with you earlier when I was discussing chocolate, and I was saying that I questioned whether chocolate actually tastes good. And you said you didn't agree with me, but I said when it's missing that part of it that makes it taste awesome, that lights up your brain, that's what tastes good. The act of lighting up your brain. And the same, I think, is true for coffee. Like, when it's decaf, you're not getting that brain lit up, and so it's just kind of like, oh, this tastes gross. I don't want this.
That could be. But I agree with you about coffee and chocolate. I don't agree about sugar, though. That was the part where we
Gotcha.
disagree. I think sugar by itself, it actually does taste good. It's not tricking your brain into thinking it tastes good.
I guess we're gonna have to keep playing that one out and checking it, because good, is I guess that's a judgment call too, right?
I mean, in that sense, like you start getting into that conversation about the Matrix, like, do you really know what a steak tastes like, or do you know what they programmed a steak to taste like?
Absolutely. Those are real questions. All right. Well, Jason Knowles says, is it possible that your energy reserve can stop you from sleeping? Yeah, to me, that would seem possible. I mean, just in the beginning. After a while, your body's going to get used to it. So.
And I would think, like, what normally happens with people is they make a lot of ketones at first, and then their body regulates. They're using more fatty acids instead of straight up ketones, and they're regulated, and you don't you like kind of drop off that feeling of having too much energy? I've never had it, so I'm not sure, but isn't that what happens?
I haven't felt like I had too much energy except when drinking coffee. But on a regular day, if I'm not, like, no, I have the perfect amount of energy for what I feel like doing. Or I don't know. I've never felt like I had too much energy. It was just like I more felt like, hey, today is a good day to go hiking, rather than just like, oh, I have too much energy to sit on the couch like I wanted to all day.
Yeah, but okay, but you were just saying that at night it's possible, like you were saying, I think the second day of fasting, you have too many. It feels like you have too many ketones, and you just need to eat a little bit and lower the level of ketones so that you can actually rest. I wonder, is that what he's talking about? Like, maybe when you're brand new, your body has a lot of ketones in production and circulating around, so it's harder to relax.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this stuff will pass, and having a little snack can really help. So, that's something to think about. I also wonder how many people wear a Fitbit or an Oura Ring, because it's really interesting to look at your sleep patterns, to the best that these things can judge them, because that can also give you some information about what's happening for you. Do you have a Fitbit? Do you watch that, Arien?
I had one. I wore it in the shower one too many times because I would just forget that it was on and I broke it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I still have my Fitbit, so I do check the sleep data, although it's putting more and more of the data behind a paywall, so I don't know, we'll see how much. Yeah.
Even after you bought the thing, they want you to pay more.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, that's new. But, there you go. Buffalo Bill says there's a lovely brand of natural decaf tea called rooibos tea that comes from a plant in South Africa. Yeah, that one's really popular. And then Pandemic Carnivore says, I've noticed even if I'm tired, I still appear energetic. And Black Passport Fit says stress is also a significant factor with sleep issues, weight gain, and energy. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. 100% agree.
Yeah, stress is huge.
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of rooibos lovers in the chat. Oh, and Delisa wants to get an Oura Ring. I totally want one too. Yeah. So it's like a Fitbit, but it tracks a lot of, even more of your, your health markers, and it's a ring. But it can be more detailed because I think because it's the way it's designed, but it also requires more effort to get it properly fitted.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, this thing! I'm on their website. This looks.
Oh, you're ordering like tonight.
It looks like Tony Stark designed this.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So please order one. Let us know. Yeah. So if we get to, let's see, if we get to 28 likes, Arien is going to order an Oura Ring. Let's get up to 30 likes, and Arien will order an Oura Ring.
Ma'am, I'm going to need more than 30 likes for that. These things are 300.
I know. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. But it
looks
gives
cool,
you a lot of
it
good
looks
information.
Cool as hell.
Yeah. Of course, you're uploading it all into the Matrix, but, there you go.
And there's that, yeah. Now, what I may actually do is, what's the name of this grandiose decaf coffee from the mountains?
No, it's a rooibos tea. It's a type of plant. So it's tea made from a type of plant. The rooibos plant, ROOIBOS. And, there's lots of different types of teas, different brands, and some of them add like flowers and flavor. But I guess they drink it there as sort of like a coffee substitute. I
always call that rooibos tea.
Okay, well, if you want to be like the cool kids.
It's 2 O's. Okay, but yeah, I've had
Well, I
some
don't
of
know,
that
maybe
before.
I'm saying it wrong. You're going to back down that quickly and just be like, oh yeah, of course.
I'm saying, it's 2 O's. That normally makes a ooh sound. I don't know. Anyway, I've had that kind of tea before. It does make some really good tea.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
At one point, I was
Patricia
on a
Murray
Tivana
says
kick.
she has a cup of bone broth before bed. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So I can't tell from the chat whether they agree with me or you about how it's properly pronounced.
I can't tell either. All right, Seabliss says it's rooibos. That doesn't make any sense. Why would there be a second O in there if it was Roy? And yeah, no, I'm not buying it.
And I guess we are in Carnivore After Dark, because I see Studsy Nation's comment.
Can't sleep, practice some self-love. I mean, hey, since she took it there,
yeah,
expend some energy, relieve some stress, and get in touch with yourself. Get that sense of satisfaction afterwards, and then you go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I see no problems.
Go to sleep. Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
Some people exercise.
Yeah. Okay. Other people have different hobbies. So let's, the other thing that we wanted to actually touch on, right, Lee, let's move beyond the sleep and self-love. We talked about Atkins 72. So I noticed that in the last live stream, somebody mentioned, how is this different from Atkins? And I thought that's really, that was a great question, because I think it is not different. In the early stages of Atkins, as it was way back, his first book was published in 1972, and before that there was an article that he wrote about the diet, and it was published in Vogue magazine, and that's when like the whole Atkins sort of craze like really kicked off. So when I was following I guess it was Atkins in the 90s, there were people who were struggling. There were a lot of women. I noticed, sort of midlife age women who were having a lot of trouble continuing to lose weight, and they had found that they did better and they lost weight faster and more easily when they were following what was called Atkins 72. And so even then there was sort of a distinction. Each iteration of the book that was published, the diet was loosened at each stage. So in the very beginning, I mean, it was just straight up keto. Eat fatty meats, a little bit of vegetable. You don't have to. He was saying don't eat more than 2 cups of salad vegetables a day or 1 cup of cooked vegetables a day. So, but there was no, basically carnivore was fine under, from his perspective. And at the time there were no artificial sweeteners. There were no keto, products or anything like that. No flours, nut milks, any of that. So basically people ate a carnivore diet plus, a martini, and a
This is
small,
my kind of diet.
right? And a small side salad that's like maybe this big, and that was it. So what they did was actually very close to what we do, and that needs to be respected. I never felt like what Atkins had put out in the early days was bad. And in fact, the way he explained the diet in the book was really, I felt really relatable and really understandable. Whereas, a lot of us like to geek out on the science, but that can be really unapproachable for someone who's not that into the science. What do you think, Arien?
I think, to go, I guess, back to front, I think that's where we mess up sometimes. Us carnivore folks who are into the science, we explain it in terms of science. And to a new person, most new people, if they wanted the science, they would already be looking up diets. And they'd say, hey, I hear that you do carnivore. Aren't you worried about and they name some amino acid or some crap like that. But most people don't talk that way because they don't care about that crap. They just want to know, what are you doing? Does it work? And will I die? Exactly.
And the answer
am I going to die?
Eventually.
Because everyone says saturated fat kills. Everyone says if I do this, my cholesterol will do this, and then I will die. And that's not the explanation that works for most people. So that part sounds awesome. I actually ordered the book, and it's shipped, so I'm waiting for it to get here. But I think it's going to push some other things down on the pile so that I can at least skim through it. The other thing is, it's really frustrating to find out that this existed for so long, and that I knew nothing about it. I think at the time that I was researching, when I was researching paleo, I knew about it. I found out about Atkins then, and Atkins just sounded weird and fringe, and I was scared to touch it, so I didn't go deep into it. But that was back in 72, and we know that doctors, I think even before then, had been treating obesity with low carb diets. Like, we knew this stuff, and not somehow, we know how. Like, Nina Teicholz has written whole books about it. The information got lost, it got buried, it got hidden, and it's really frustrating for Atkins that it got corrupted over the years into bars and snacks and treats and cheats
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that don't help anybody.
Yeah. Um, I really agree with that. And it's sort of amazing that, like, the first time this sort of diet took the community by storm was in, I don't know, 18 something, when William Banting wrote, his
Yeah.
letter on corpulence. And it's like, man, we've had this information for so long. Like, how is this really still a problem? How is that
Yep.
possible? How is that possible? And so many people's lives have been sacrificed with just bad information. Bad information.
Yeah. And that story, did he figure it out on his own, Banting, or did
No, a
his
doctor gave it to him. And in fact,
Yeah.
somebody else had written another book, I guess, at the time, or maybe 10 years earlier, about it. So it wasn't even new information then, but he just was very good at marketing and popularizing it. So, and actually in many parts of the world, they call this banting, because that, when people were doing it, they called it that, and that just name stuck. So if you go to South Africa, people are banting. They're not doing low carb or keto. Yeah. So I think that is really, it's a shame, but it's actually kind of cool to go back. I mean, one of my friends on Instagram, @Carnivore, he is, he's just like all into like the history and the science, and he has gone back and found a lot of these old books that are, so old, from doctors who are recommending this diet for all sorts of disease. I mean, not really obesity, because that wasn't like the top problem that people faced, but for various kinds of things, from heart disease, diabetes, and so on, type 1 diabetes even. So, it's like, this was I think that people commonly understood that, eating carbohydrates would, cause obesity, and that wasn't really ideal.
Yeah. And I heard on a podcast today that something like 70% of chronic diseases can be attributed to insulin resistance. Like,
Yeah, well,
and that's all diet.
Yeah, Dr. Hampton said 80% of all Americans die from, what is it, diabetes, high blood pressure. Oh my God. All right. Diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Those are or high blood pressure meaning stroke,
Okay.
and diabetes complications. So those four
Yeah.
things kill 80% of all the people.
And all of them can be prevented.
So that was why I put up that post today, which is really on Instagram and on YouTube. Now that I have gotten to 1,000 subscribers, I am actually able to put up posts, which is awesome. But I wanted to really make the connection clear between the metabolic, the metabolic or the signs of metabolic syndrome to all of these ways of dying that are all slow and painful too. I mean, it's not even like, you drop dead early. It's like, oh, that's too bad. I mean, the complications from diabetes is terrible and long and painful. And, stroke has got to be painful, and trying to recover from that. Heart disease, same. Cancer, the worst. So
Yep.
all of these are, slow and painful and uncomfortable ways to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really sad to think about the fact that we knew, well, not even really we knew, like they didn't used to be things. They didn't used to be these epidemic diseases. And we know also how to prevent them, and we're not doing it. That's not what's pushed. We're actually pushed into the exact diet that causes those things.
Yeah. And, I mean, well, I am a conspiracy theorist in some respects, but even still, without that, you would have to look at this and see that, this is by design, just like you say. I don't know if somebody like came up with the diet, but thinking about products that you can make that can give you a lot of profit, last for a long time, and people become addicted to. That, I think, is the food that we are presented with today. And so, you know, we've had grains and carbs and potatoes and pasta, all of these things like named health foods, but in fact, you know, they're just as addictive to our bodies as sugar is. And so, you know, we're put in this position where we absolutely have, you know, we can only fail. I mean, when you have people who are spending billions of dollars, people whose whole careers are spent, you know, learning how to make a product that hits the exact human bliss point, why would we ever think that we could just stop at one? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, there's no reason why we would be able to do that. So, you know, that I have to remind myself that, you know, we're actually moving around in a very toxic environment, and it is very, very difficult for us to stay off of these substances, and we have to recognize that they do mess with our brains no matter what. And you know, unfortunately, there are people who are profiting off of that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
it's our
Go ahead.
it's our job to try to fight that, and as people who know a little better, to help other people to bring that knowledge to them, because yeah, you don't really have a chance. It's very rare that a person will just look around and see the world and go, oh, this is all screwed up. You just live in it and you just think, I don't know, this doesn't work, and they tell me it's genetics or something, and I guess I'm just screwed.
Yeah. Well, we're awake. I gotta say that, you know, doing a carnivore diet is, you know, so off the beaten path, so at odds with everything that we're told, that, you know, you can be rest assured that all of us are have the personality type to be strong and to be awake. So we should, you know, first pat ourselves on the back. But, you know, we also just have to, you know, support one another and really, you know, try to build a tight community that supports one another, because it is hard, you know, and I liken this to working, you know, if you were an alcoholic and you worked at a bar where you were required to drink as part of your shift. It was free and it was ubiquitous and you were expected to do it and at any time. Like, that's the kind of world that we move through. So it is really, you know, it was really challenging. And that's why I wanted to create, you know, this live stream, this community, the Facebook group, because, you know, you need to hear over and over again what is wrong with what we were doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It takes time to sink in. Like, I tell the story of when I first did this. I'm one of the people that fell into carnivore. I was just eating keto, trying to cure my IBS, and didn't really have a desire for vegetables, so I wasn't eating them. And I said, like, oh, this can't be healthy. I got to do something else. So I had to look up, like, is it okay to not eat vegetables? And that's how I found carnivore. But even then, like, I still didn't really believe it. It took, even knowing that other people were doing it, it took time for me I had to read multiple articles and books and watch YouTube videos where people are explaining it and saying why it's okay, look at Reddit and see a bunch of people who are doing it. And then I decided, all right, I can stick with this. And I was still thinking, like, at some point I'm probably going to change my mind about this, because there's a good likelihood that it's not right.
Yeah. But thank God for Reddit. You know, I think that's a lot of us in the old days. Like, that was, you know, that was where the information was. There weren't a lot of places to go, and it was, you know, it was hard. So, yeah, thank God for the Zero Carb Sub. There were a lot of really great people there. I'm still friends with, you know, a lot of the moderators and people over there. That was super, super helpful. Yeah. So, So anyway, with Atkins 72, you're gonna start reading that book. I kind of followed that program for a long time, so I found it super helpful. And essentially, what I put up, and posted as the way to start the carnivore diet, that was Atkins, minus he allowed, I think, up to 2 ounces of cheese a day. Although he would write that. The things that were likely to cause stalls were dairy. I think he wrote nuts and coffee, interestingly enough. Yeah, and cigarettes, that was another one. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So coffee, well, you reminded me of that because I had forgotten I remember that he had written that. But you reminded me after you had been watching a presentation from Dr. Nadir Ali, right? What was that?
He was talking about, so he actually, kind of oddly enough, promotes coffee. So I had a hard time wrapping my head around it, but he was saying that, so he points out that coffee mobilizes the fat that is stored in the body, and that fat can be used, like, I think 4 different ways. One of them was like it goes to the liver and gets processed into ketones. It gets free fatty acids get processed by or get used by the muscles for energy. There is something called fat recycling, which you don't want to happen. And then there was some 4th thing. I can't remember what the 4th thing was. But then he said the fat recycling, like he went through this whole explanation of all the great stuff that happens, and then said, but this fat recycling is promoted by coffee something like 130% versus what would normally happen. And the fat recycling is what causes insulin resistance. It causes this like lipotoxicity, which then causes insulin resistance in some of your organs, and then you end up getting fat buildup in your viscera. So that's like on your pancreas and your liver and stuff. But that's the thing that's being promoted the most by coffee. And the thing that's being promoted only like about halfway, 45%, was the fat production, I think, into ketones. Either that or it was the free fatty acids getting used by muscles. And I was like, but so it sounds like what you're saying is that coffee causes insulin resistance, but you're telling people that they should have coffee, they should have it in a fasted state, and they should have it without extra fat, which is, I think, what he was trying to get to, but there was just something he was missing, because I'm reading his charts and I'm like, the point that you think you're making is not the point that you're actually making. I'm looking at your charts and I'm saying, oh, okay, coffee's bad. And you're saying, no, coffee's good, just don't eat it with the extra fat. So he's telling his patients now, don't, like, a high fat diet when you're already obese is not the way to go. You already have insulin resistance. You need, I guess, like a moderate fat diet or something. But he's telling them, like, you need to be exercising and fasting and drinking black coffee. And I agree with the exercising. The fasting part, fasting for brand new people still just bugs me. I don't like it. I feel like you should fast naturally. You shouldn't be enforcing a fast.
Yeah.
And then the coffee thing. Yeah. I need more. I'm not buying it.
Well, I know that back in 72, Dr. Atkins said, actually can hear my voice coming out of your computer. I don't know.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. But
okay, headphones.
But Dr. Atkins said in 72 that coffee can promote insulin resistance. So, that was why he was saying it can sort of block your ability to get into ketosis. So I didn't really understand all of what you're describing there. I'm gonna have to watch Dr. Ali
it was a lot
more times, but to kind of get that. But what I hear is that it somehow inhibits the use of our fat, our body fat, and having it with fat seems to be much, much worse. So that part is definitely true, that second part, but it also sounds like that the fat
or the fat is mobilized by coffee, but it's not mobilized only in the way that you want it to be. Like what everybody would want would be, okay, so I'm going to drink coffee, and what it's going to do is make ketones and free fatty acids, and those are going to get used by the ketones will float around in my bloodstream, get used by my brain, fatty acids will get used by muscles. Okay, great. And it sounds like, yeah, that happens, and some other stuff that you don't want to happen.
Yeah. And it sounded like you were saying that it happens, that he was saying that the whole thing happens best in people who are metabolically healthy. But since most Americans are not metabolically healthy, it's like, for whom is this good advice?
And that's what's confusing, because he says in a metabolically healthy person, that fat recycling thing that can end up causing insulin resistance, it doesn't really cause insulin resistance. It doesn't increase it. And I go, oh, okay, that makes sense, except that those people, the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
And the people you're talking about that this could hurt are the ones who need it. I'm confused.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I feel like the carnivore diet, the message is getting a little bit confused where it's being sent. I mean, I sort of, for many of us who came from paleo to keto to carnivore, the way I kind of learned about this diet was an improvement for people who had diabetes or, were pre-diabetes. And so the conversation was very much about getting into ketosis, lowering your insulin resistance. And I feel like somehow that message has gotten kind of lost. But, for our community, for particularly, the Black community, that is a primary, killer for us. So that's not off the table at all.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's got to be part of all of our conversations.
Right. And you know what else bugs me about the Ali and coffee thing is I'm not into biohacks. I don't like the idea of them. I don't like the philosophy. I feel like you should give the body what it really needs, and it will do what it needs to do. Mm-hmm. So the idea of this outside substance made by a plant that has all these different effects, like using that as a weight loss drug, doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't sit right.
Yeah. Well, that was interesting too, why I felt like on the Zero Card the subreddit, there in the beginning, there was a lot of encouragement to quit coffee. And one of the things I heard people say is that, coffee can, dull your appetite, so you're not hungry. But, that leads people to not eating enough, which is like the first and foremost reason why people fail on the carnivore diet is like just not eating enough. And so they really actually discouraged it. So I don't know. Yeah. A lot of people pushed back and refused to give it up. And, I was one of them until finally, I gave up the cheese, and it was like, oh, and then, I gave up alcohol, and then I gave up, the coffee altogether. And it was like, wow. So they weren't wrong. It's hard. Our lives change a lot. And I think that's another thing. People kind of come to carnivore for weight loss, not realizing how much it dramatically changes your entire life. But imagine what it feels like to feel great, to have a ton of energy, to finally have, the get up and go to do all the things that you want to do. Like, how's your life changed? You tell me. What do you think?
Well, specifically to a thing you said, like my appetite is different now. And it's kind of amazing and not that it happened in one day. Like, given the half-life of coffee, you would expect it to happen quickly, but I was really surprised to yesterday. I'm starting to get hungry at like 10 o'clock, and that's like a good 3 hours earlier than the earliest I would normally get hungry. Normally on a bunch of coffee, my first meal was sometime from 1 to 4 in the afternoon. Now it's 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, so far it's been that and sleep that's felt different.
Yeah. So, So that's, but that's good. But what, I guess I ask the question, and I do encourage people to think about this. Like, what is all the aspects of your life that would change?
Oh, I'm sorry. You meant on carnivore, not just off coffee.
Yeah, on carnivore. I
Oh,
mean, I had so much more energy that I was able to do things because I often felt like, I live in New York City, like, there's stuff going on all the time, like this is where everybody wants to be and the hubbub. But, all I did was like get up, go to work, come home. Like I was too tired and too exhausted to do anything else. But once, I got rolling, first of all with keto and then later with carnivore, I didn't have to, I could have a whole other life after work and still have enough energy to do it, and not feel like it was all I could do to get through that 8 hours.
yeah. I totally feel that. Like I used to basically go to work and eat, and I'd be exhausted by like
Mm-hmm.
9, 10 o'clock, as opposed to like I may get tired by then, but I'm not feeling like I'm progressively getting more and more tired by the time the night rolls around. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my energy is better, my sleep is better. Like I'm before coffee, before too much coffee. So BC, I
We're BC all the way.
right, like I could get to sleep, and it would probably be about 10, 11 o'clock. I'd go to sleep, and I'd wake up sometimes before my alarm. So my alarm at that point when I was going to work was at 5:30 in the morning. I'd
Oh,
wake up before that alarm easy and have energy, um, get up, take a shower, maybe fix something for breakfast if I was going to do that, and like still have time to actually leave about like 6:30 to get to work at 7. Easy.
wow. That is an early morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, get to work at
So that's
7,
what
leave by
happened
3:30.
once you quit or wasn't drinking so much coffee and you were carnivore.
Right.
Yeah.
Like yeah, energy was a lot better. And I felt this like I would have times where I'd be sitting in the room I was in now. So I'm like on the computer playing a video game or something or reading, and I just get the urge to get up and I'd walk around the rest of my apartment looking for something to do that didn't involve sitting down because that was the last thing I wanted to do. So I might like randomly sweep my kitchen or clean my bathroom or something.
I absolutely understand that. Same deal. And
Yeah.
I regularly like pace around my living room, or if I'm thinking or trying to kind of work through something, I'm walking as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, and that was not ever something I did before. I mean, I once I was sat down, I was sat down. Wasn't
Right.
getting up. Yeah.
Yeah, like remember you were making fun of me about the the plan for getting up. Like, all right, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna use the bathroom because I don't feel like getting up again. Like,
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
I just don't want to be that person again. Like I want to be fine about getting up each and every single time it needs to happen. So, yeah.
yeah. And it's weird now being around people who aren't that way.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you realize, like I'm kind of impatient with folks because I want to get going and they're moving slow, or oh, I don't feel like it. Give me another 5 minutes. I'm like, let's go, let's
Yeah.
go.
Well, I have often been like, okay, well, I'll meet you back here.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what ends up happening. So I'm really curious to see what you think of the Atkins book, and I think you'll find it's just the same as what we do, really. Back then it was, much more comfortable, a much more comfortable way of doing keto. Now it's very different, very weird. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
and it,
the extra crap.
yeah.
So, what's this stuff about? The other thing I know about Atkins, besides the fact that it's basically carnivore, is that there's this like regimented like steps. What is that protocol?
Right. So that came later. That might have been in the first thing, but he was saying that you have to figure out your level of ongoing weight loss. And I think it was called like OWL. And so basically each week you raised your carbs 5 grams, and you just keep raising them each week until you hit a point where you don't lose weight anymore, and then you back down 5 grams. And that's your ongoing weight loss level. And then, when you hit your goal weight, you just stay there. So that meant some people, were at 20 grams or less. Some people went up to 80, most people, I think you said, fell in around 50 or something like that, 50 or 60. I can't remember. But, I think as people became more addicted to grains and sugars and wanted their products, and as each edition was published, more of these things were allowed. So from what I could gather in from presentations and like Dr. Westman sort of talking about his relationship with Dr. Atkins, Atkins was in his clinic was very strict with people. Like what they were doing was much lower carb, but what people were doing out in the world using the books was much more relaxed. And over time, by the time the 90s came around, that was the 4th iteration of the book, and by then it was completely like a different diet. There were all of these products, and then I think he died, and I don't think his wife took over. I think it was by then a corporation, so the corporation was like, let's make products, and Atkins M&Ms, and I even saw a TV commercial with Rob Lowe talking about Atkins M&Ms, and I was like, wow, I guess keto has arrived. I mean, if you have Rob Lowe doing a commercial for you, that's top drawer. So I don't know.
Atkins M&Ms though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so I think if you go back to the early days, you'll see people had a lot of success. And, I've got to say, I really encourage all of you to check out, what's her name? Dr. Jackie Eberstein, her presentation. So she was Dr. Atkins's nurse for 30 years. And, she really has a lot to say about what the experience was like, working with him, the stuff that they all went through. I mean, it seems like Dr. Atkins had a pretty, what should I say, prickly personality. So, he didn't have the characteristics necessary to sort of smoothly get along with other people. And, and then you have a diet that is so different, and you can't really make money off of. Then what you end up is with everybody kind of going one way and Dr. Atkins going the other. And so, his diet was super popular. I mean, the books really sold well because it works, but yet we're still being, taught this other information, and then, given these books that are just they can't help you. they really don't help you. And I heard Dr. Westman say that you ought to think about the books. The last one he wrote together with, I think, the Dr. Atkins Foundation. And he said basically he thought of it like, prescription versus over-the-counter. The book in the 4th, edition was the over-the-counter medication. There are some people who only have a few pounds to lose, and they can take the over-the-counter version and it's effective. But there are other people who are much sicker and they needed the prescription strength, which would be eating less than 20 grams of carbs a day. So,
and I think about stuff like that, and I wonder who actually wants to in their daily life be counting carbs forever. To go up by 5 carbs every cycle, every week, and then you realize you're gaining weight, and now you say, okay, that's above my number, which is kind of, come to think of it, is kind of ridiculous anyway, because your body's going to be changing all the time. Mm-hmm. So your maintenance number this week might not be the same number 3 months from now. Mm-hmm. So you're going to probably constantly be figuring that out. And you have to constantly every week be thinking about, all right, did I had salad. That's not really much. That's maybe 2 carbs. Okay, but I did have this granola. That was however many that was. Like, why would I want to live that way?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, those are all really great points. And I think that, perhaps that was kind of his point too, but, people probably really pushed back. But he was I think he was like a Park Avenue diet doctor. So, back in the 70s and 80s, wealthy women would, pay to see him and get, their treatment. So I think from his perspective, it was fine. And then doing the book and allowing the information out there further. But, I think that people probably put a lot of, push back a lot. But I don't think that there was as much emphasis on eating fruits and vegetables and grains in the 70s like there is today. I feel like when I think back to childhood, I got a salad, but the salad bowl was small. I mean, it was not a soup bowl. It was like this big, and it was small. And so there were, a few leaves of lettuce, a smaller slice of tomato, maybe a couple of pieces of grated carrot, but that was kind of it. So it wasn't like today where you're eating these troughs of salad and vegetables and rice and beans. So the information that he was sharing was like coming at a different time where there wasn't that kind of stuff to deal with. I think that people, I don't know that even the pasta was ubiquitous in the American culture. I mean, and not sort of in specific culture, ethnic culture, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think if anything, it was like, no, you can't have potato. What? No potato? Yeah, no potato. But like, I don't know that there was a whole lot of pushback on a lot of different kinds of products and demand for that initially.
And that makes it make more sense. Excuse me, because I would have a much easier time just saying I'm only gonna have pasta twice a week. I'm only gonna have potatoes twice a week, as opposed to thinking about doing something daily, and counting daily. And yeah, if I'm not surrounded by sugar and grains all the time, like even for my parents, like, so they're growing up in the like late 60s, like sweets existed, but you weren't having sweets all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids were skinny all throughout middle school, high school. It wasn't until afterwards where now you've got a job and you can spend money on your own that now they were starting to get bigger. But before then, yeah, you might have a cake once a month. It's getting spread around. Like, my mom comes from a family of 9 kids, so 9 kids plus the adults. That cake's not lasting long at all.
Yeah. Wow, 9 adults. That's a lot. So yeah, that sweets is like an occasional thing, and I felt like I didn't really get a lot either. So I didn't have a lot of that, but my taste for it still it still grew. But yeah, I mean, so that is definitely something to think about. The culture at the time about what people ate was pretty different. So, but if any of you ever heard of page 4, that came from Dr. Atkins. It was called page 4 because it was the 4th page of some booklet that he used to hand out, and that page got passed around from woman to woman, place to place. Eventually, somebody photocopied it, put it up on the internet, and it continued to move around there. But there are plenty of people that started page 4 back in 72 and just kind of stuck with it. They never really kind of moved very far. So, I can see how you might decide, okay, I'm going to eat whatever's on this page 4, and then occasionally I'll have, a piece of cake for my birthday, and just kind of leave it at that. So, and just never eat, bread or carbs or potatoes again. But it's when, we started creating all of these other products like, almond flour and almond milk and, keto this and keto friendly that things really went awry. And that's kind of, I think, honestly, I feel like the Atkins 72 people were part of the people that ended up maybe even circling back around into carnivore, because it's really there where you start to have these problems: artificial sweeteners, nuts, the only thing, dairy is the only carnivore thing that really seems to contribute to the stalls that people struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that makes perfect sense that they would realize that calling themselves Atkins isn't working anymore. Atkins has been damn it, I can't think of the word now, but yeah, it's been like hijacked,
adulterated
by these other people, and like you don't want to be associated with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is interesting sometimes, like if I when I first went keto, so this was years and years ago, a friend of mine at the time had told me, like, I explained to him what I was doing, and he said, "Oh, you're doing Atkins."
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what that is, maybe, but I feel like you're kind of dismissing what I'm saying just to say that it's Atkins.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's not offensive. It actually, like, now that I know, like, yeah, sure, it's pretty much like Atkins. And Atkins was right. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah. And it's interesting to hear Tim Noakes speak. He's I guess he's a South African doctor and marathon runner. And he was a person who, had very bad insulin resistance, was battling diabetes, and his father and I think grandfather both died very young. And so he was trying to avoid that. And somehow he, somebody had said something to him about the Atkins diet, and he was like, "Oh, that's garbage," But then bought the book and decided to read it anyway, and then was like, "Oh my God, I've been doing everything wrong all this time." And, and he would say, like, if I can't keep my weight under control and I'm running marathons, he ran like multiple marathons a year for years, so if he's like, if I'm doing that level of exercise and I can't do it, like, what chance does anybody else have? So, reading the science and the way that Atkins explained it was, very accessible and approachable. And so he, I think he wrote the book called The Lore of Running, which was all about, getting into running and long distance running and eating high carb, low fat and low calorie in order to fuel that kind of exercise. So, and he just flipped all around. So, there are some people that have seen the light and seen the damage that it's done. But, it's important to support the people that do see that, because, we're doing a hard thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a friend who's now trying it. Not really carnivore, but at least keto.
Hey,
we'll see how that goes.
That's okay. That's a great start, and you'll go from there. I see there's a discussion of sweet tea in the chat. So sweet tea is not carnivore, it is not keto, and I don't recommend it. But it does seem to be the quintessential official drink of the South, right along with sugar lemonade.
Right.
So definitely stay away from it. If you've never had it, don't try it.
Dude, when McDonald's got sweet tea, all the black people at my job went crazy. Everybody's like coming into work with sweet tea, getting them at lunch, like just any excuse to go to McDonald's. Because especially one of my close coworkers was from the South. She was from Alabama, and she was mad that she came up to Baltimore and couldn't get sweet tea in most places.
I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, so I don't understand. You want them to add sugar to your iced tea? Like, why do you do that? Like, what?
But then I found out that when it's already brewed and then iced and then you put the sugar in, it doesn't mix as well.
Yeah.
So that's why you want it brewed, and you want the sugar put in while it's hot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I tasted the McDonald's sweet tea, and it was like, oh, it was way, way too sweet. Even then, when I was eating sad, it was way too sweet. Like it was like Baltimore has chicken box places, and you get a half and half there, which is a sweet tea and a lemonade mixed together, and it's really good.
It's called an Arnold Palmer. Come on.
No. We are
The
black
sweet tea and the
people.
lemonade.
We are black people in Baltimore. It's called a half and half. I had never heard of Arnold Palmer until I actually went to Las Vegas, and that's what they were calling them there. But they made them with unsweetened tea, and it was not good.
Oh yeah.
But these things were so sweet that I could buy one of them and drink off of it for like 2 days because I had to water it down to like 1 part half and half and 4 parts water or 3 parts water. Like
yeah.
So
well,
yeah,
good carnivore mystic. I'm glad that you never like sweet tea. Good job. And
nice.
7-Up cake, yes, that I'm familiar with.
Oh, 7-Up cake is so good.
No, it's not. It's not. It kills us. It's very bad.
Well,
come on.
It's bad for us, but
let's not participate. Remember, this is a drug. We're talking about having a good high. Yeah, that last time I had that 7-Up cake and got real high, yeah, it was great. But I don't want to get high anymore. I want to live life open-eyed and be, healthy and have the energy to do the things that I want to do. So, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's important, our language, what we talk about, to reaffirm the decisions that we are making, and to support others who are making the same decisions.
Right. No 7-Up cake. It's bad.
It does not do for us what we think it does. Yeah.
That is true.
So, but good. So I'm glad that you've gotten that out of your system for sure. And we're not fooled anymore. We're not fooled at all. Okay, so what was the last thing that we wanted to talk about? We talked about coffee, sleep, and Atkins. Do you guys have any questions? We do want to answer a few quick questions if you have any. And just kind of make sure that everything you digested from Tuesday is gelling for you, so to speak.
Right. So I wanted to bring this up, and now's a decent time. Somehow orange juice came up in the chat like way, way earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why orange juice was coming up in a carnivore live stream chat, but
Phew.
Bless you.
Phew.
Twice.
I don't understand either, which was kind of why I skipped over it. But then I noticed other people were like, why are you skipping over this? Like, this is important. So in case we weren't clear, no fruit juice. At no point in time on low carb, on keto, on carnivore, at no point in time is fruit juice encouraged. It's not on the list. It's never been on page 4. Nope. Even in paleo, it's not on the list. Like, nope. Getting fruit and being able to drink it, no less, is it's just not that easy to get fruit like that. So definitely not on the list.
Yeah. And if you did not want to be carnivore at all, you did not actually want to be low carb, I would still say fruit juice, horrible idea. Mm-hmm. It's the sugar of the fruit going directly into you without any other fiber to slow down the absorption of it. Like, if you want to taste apples, then actually eat an apple. And you're not going to eat nearly as many as the apples that go into just 1 cup of apple juice.
Okay, so Studsy Nation does not want to give up the orange juice. And I think somebody was dry snitching, letting us know about it. Yeah. So...
Seedless was dry snitching. Yeah, because she was like... She was like, I can't believe y'all not talking about the orange juice.
Yeah. Well, what is SHF? Oh, gotcha. No, I got it. So, for situations where people are getting in your business about what you're eating. I assume that's what that means. No,
Real
maybe
life
not.
SHF disaster type things. Oh, we actually talked about this.
Well, what's
Um,
SHF?
I'm not sure. I'll look
All
that up.
right,
But anyway, talk
you
about
got to
what you would eat
clarify.
in an emergency.
Oh, I was gonna say about if people are getting in your business and talking about what you're eating, or having comments about it. But um, yeah, I don't know
Super
what
high
that means.
frequency.
But
Oh, is
anyway,
that one of those? Is this another 5G conspiracy?
I don't know. Well, let's go back. I did see carnivore pandemic carnivore talked about salt. So I know that there's a lot. I know that there's a lot of talk about salt not being good for us. Um, so I see. All right, we've
It's
got
all wrong.
clarification about SHF.
Yeah.
So I assume when you mean the revolution or something, that kind of shit hitting the
Yeah.
fan, or
And that's what I figured. That's why I said, like, just what would you eat in an emergency?
yeah. So much to so much to think about. I had talked about trying to make some jerky in advance. Over the next few weeks or months, trying to just have some of that sort of stored up and made ahead of time. And then I see
Hmm.
Seabliss is talking about smoking herring, smoked meats, pemmican. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything, all the canned fishes are great for that. And kippered herring is so good.
Hmm.
And that's actually a good thing that I can say is good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we're gonna have to. I mean, we'll probably have to do a whole show about that. Um, we'll have to figure that out. But I
Carnivore
do want to talk
emergency.
about it. I do want to talk about it. I did see in here now. Someone has said that they are concerned, about the salt for people with high blood pressure, and um, and so I think of course, we are not doctors and we can't give you that kind of advice. You're going to have to talk to your doctor. But the reality is that eating this way reduces inflammation, it reduces water in your body. So if you are also taking a diuretic, you are going to have a problem. And the same with diabetic medication. Your blood pressure tends to reduce pretty quickly, and so those medications often need to be adjusted, and pretty quickly. So maybe in a matter of weeks. So it's definitely something you have to pay attention to. I don't think that you can do this diet without having some electrolytes. How much each and every individual person needs, that is going to vary based off of what they're doing, what time of year it is, is it cold or hot out, all of those things. But you're going to have to pay close attention to how your body is responding. And, medications definitely will have to change. So I don't want people
Yeah.
thinking that they should be trying to do this low salt. That is very bad. It's going to
And
lead to a very bad situation.
and that's the point that if you hadn't said it, I was going to ask you if I could. Like, salt does not seem to cause high blood pressure.
Hmm.
Insulin resistance and inflammation cause high blood pressure.
Exactly.
So eating salt, which your body needs, your body has to have salt. It regulates, one, it's used in so many functions, and it regulates the levels of your other minerals. So you have to have it. You can't be scared to use it. I would say even for a high blood pressure person, yeah, you need to be talking to your doctor, and you're probably going to drop off your meds very quickly, going any sort of low carb, including carnivore. But should you, yeah, do it without salt? Like, it's not going to work. You're going to really get keto flu if you do that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, it's been beaten into our heads so much that, you have to go low fat and now low sugar and, don't have too much protein. And it's kind of like, what's left to eat? You know, if we're trying to
Right.
come down in every category, like something's got to be there. And the reality is, when we're running on glucose every day for energy, we're getting our energy from sugar. And now that we've switched over to being on a ketogenic diet, which we are, then we are running on fat for energy. And so you got to get your calories from somewhere. And the salt is part of making that happen. And if you're not having the salt, you're not going to be able to get the energy, and you are going to either cheat and go dive headfirst into, you know, a bucket of ice cream, or you have to have the salt. So I don't know exactly, especially if you are, you know, have high blood pressure and you're taking medications. I don't know how much that is going to be for you, but you're definitely going to have to work on adjusting those medications pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's one of the most common problems that new people have. I think on your chart, like that's the first thing on the solutions chart, and probably by like order of importance or prevalence, like it should be the first. Like it happens all the time. It happened to me. I was eating steaks every day and feeling like, oh, I only need to eat one time a day, which also contributed to having less salt, because I would be so full. I hadn't eaten that way ever in my life. So now I'm so
And I think that's
stuffed.
part of why the carnivores suggest that people eat multiple times a day and not fast and not have coffee, because every time you eat, that's a way to consume more salt. And if you're not eating, you're just not getting it in.
That makes sense. And that coffee is going to have a diuretic effect. So then you're going to be peeing out more of your salt. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I see Seabliss says there are some carnivore vets that don't use salt or use salt every once in a while. So yeah, there are some people who do that. I don't know. I don't know that they all started out that way. And I don't know that that works for everyone. But I've heard way more people struggling with muscle cramps, fatigue, brain fog, exhaustion, you know, all of that, which does get resolved pretty quickly with the salt. I think it's possible, as you heal over time, your need for salt will decrease. So, you know, while we're telling you to just really pound it back in the beginning, later on, we don't need to do all of that much in order to, you know, stay in a safe zone. So, like I said, it really is very personalized to you. And if you're not having salt and not having cramps and not having the exhaustion and all of that, then go ahead, you know, and continue. But there's a lot of people for whom that is a problem. And
Yeah.
and then, you know, I think that there are some people who also want to talk about, you know, what was done in the past. And yes, I think that, you know, early man, when we would hunt and bring back an animal and eat it, you know, probably weren't adding a whole lot of salt. But remember, you know, the blood that was still in the animal has a lot of salt in it. And also remember, the water that was available at the time had a lot more minerals and salt in it. So what we get to consume today is very denatured. You know, most of the minerals and stuff are filtered out. And so we're not getting the kind of electrolytes that we might have in a different environment. So it's difficult to say, you know, yeah, we should be having no salt and just getting it from the meat, when in fact our meat is drained for a month and hung for a month. So there's no blood in it. We're not getting any sodium, really.
Yep. And I would also say that I wonder, one, if those people, the long-term carnivores who now aren't adding salt, like how much coffee they drink. I think that can make a big difference, because again of the diuretic effect. And then I've just read about people like training their bodies to not require salt. Like they're carnivores and they either gradually use less salt or they very drastically just start using less, and eventually the body learns to retain salt where it wasn't doing that before. It sounds possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like the taste of salt, so I just keep using it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So Plum is asking if we can comment on her salt comment from the last live. I don't remember what it was, so you're going to have to put it back up again.
Yeah.
Bliss says she does better without salting, to be honest. So if you find that you do better, then that's what you need to do. We are all about, doing what works best for your body. So, there are always outliers. There are always going to be somebody who, what works for most people is just not what works for them. So if that's where you are, that's fine, and then you honor that, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see Martine is asking, so I need to make a doctor's appointment before I start. If you're on medication, you really do have to talk to a medical professional, and work with them. Like, I don't know what they tell people who, I'm sure like people are like, hey doc, I'm going on a diet, and the doctor's like, yeah, okay, sure. But I'm sure they would have to say to the person, call me if you're feeling this, that, or the other, because they know if you're losing weight, you're losing inflammation, you're losing water, and that means that your diuretic is going to be too effective. So yeah. I don't know if that needs to be an appointment or you just need to call, but you need to connect with your medical professional.
And that's what I would be wondering. Like, do you need the appointment beforehand, or do you need to be like very, very ready to call them like the minute it starts feeling like this stuff works too, the medication works too well all of a sudden? Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people with high blood pressure who like they know their bodies well enough that they can feel when it's high, and they know to take a pill, and then they know if that pill has brought them too low. You start getting those classic feelings like, oh, I stand up and I feel dizzy and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so I see Mia is saying that she thinks fatty meats have some salt in them, and Bliss, concurs. Yeah, that's not to say that there are no electrolytes in meat. There absolutely are.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that in previous times, we might well have been able to get all we needed because we were eating fresher meat that hadn't lost as much sodium or as much electrolytes, animals are using those electrolytes for the same functions as we are in their own bodies. So that stuff is there, and if we're eating them, we're getting it. So, but today maybe we don't, we're not getting as much of the sodium because, like I said, the animals are hung, and maybe we're not eating as broad a variety of these types of foods. So, there's a lot of reasons why we might not, get all we need. I hesitate to say, we need to think about eating more nose to tail because, that sort of drives the conversation and in a different direction, and also makes this diet, I think, less approachable. And, some people might find it less approachable if we start talking about, liver and brains and bone marrow.
Yeah. Although
that being said, I added bone marrow and bone to the chuck roast that I made in my Instapot today, and it was critical. It was critically needed. So is the bone marrow now sitting in the broth, or can you actually taste it on the chuck roast itself? Well, I kind of shredded the chuck roast, so now it's all one, just broth and meat and everything. But yeah, rendered completely, so I would suppose it's in the broth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had, I think, 2 bones today. So yeah, love bone marrow. I'm officially in love with it.
Wait, and your first time having it was like 2 days ago?
More like 2 weeks, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was very recent. I tasted it, and I was telling you in Pandemic Carnivore, I was like, this tastes weird. Like, it tastes like suet. And she was like, no, it doesn't. You're just wrong. And I said, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm doing it wrong. And then I had like actually let it thaw and eat it then. And it's exactly like you guys described. It's like carnivore bubblegum.
Yeah.
A little bit of salt. It's so good.
Yeah, I did finally eat some raw. So I've been ordering from Bel Campo. And for everyone who's here, one, hit the like button, please. Let's get some more likes here. And we've hit 30 likes, so Arien should be ordering an Oura ring.
I'm gonna order some Rooibos tea.
Rooibos tea and an Oura ring. But I did finally, I've been ordering from Belcampo. They're a grass-fed, grass-finished, pastured, regenerative farm. And so they have a lot of really good quality meats. And so I thought, as long as I'm getting some marrow from, a source that I can theoretically trust, let me try eating it raw. So it was quite good. It was quite good.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually even add salt to it. Man, I just ate it like that, and it was good.
I believe it.
Yeah. So definitely give that a try. So anyway, the whole reason I raised that was...
But calf liver, I don't like.
If you use my code, my name, EDE10, you'll get 10% off. So if you choose to go to Belcampo, use my code, 8A10. Wait, so you said you didn't like what?
Calf liver. It tastes like more mild regular liver, which still tastes like liver.
Okay, well that is what it is.
Yeah, but it's not
a younger baby cow that hasn't lived through as much hardship, and so its liver is a little wilder.
I'm tasting the stress and the mental anguish in the liver.
You are tasting the struggle. You are tasting the struggle.
Struggle liver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had it with breakfast. It was like a slice of calf liver. So it was like that, bone marrow, and like 4 eggs. And I got through it where I can't even get through beef liver if I just cook that and eat it. But it still like wasn't so good that it was like, or even so okay that I was like happy to have it. So I'm going to try to finish this package. I may mix it with some ground beef or something next, but this might be it for liver.
Well, I swear, if you mix it with equal parts fat, it really makes it taste much more mild.
Oh, yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah. If you're trying to eat it straight up, anyway. If you're trying to eat it straight up, like, that's struggle. That's struggle.
So, but if I make it pate, what am I going to put it on?
So what I used to do, or what I have done, is make a meatloaf in my air fryer, and I make it very dense and hard, and then slice it very thin, so it's like bread, and I use it like a toast point. What?
It makes perfect sense. It's just that is not where I thought that was going.
Huh. Well, like, because if you spread it on something, it's like butter. It melts. So you got to figure out what you can put it on that can hold its shape, can hold the force of, like, something a little bit hard being wiped on with a knife. Like, I had to think about, think outside the box.
You know what? I could put it on steak instead of, sometimes I put bacon eggs on steak.
Yeah.
I could use the pate.
Oh, absolutely. And I scooped up some one time and put it in a bowl, and it looked like chocolate ice cream, so I posted that. People really thought that was funny. But it was good. It was good. I mean, you can eat it straight up like that. Or mix it in with chunks of meat. I like to chew, I don't like to... This was like why, when I first went on my first serious diet, that was when I gave up all sweet drinks. I just decided, like, I'd rather eat food. I don't want to waste calories on drinking. And so, I just gave up all juice, all things. But, so, like, I feel a little bit with the liver, like, I need to have something to chew.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could probably, if I was going to eat the pate straight, if it actually tasted okay for me to eat that way, it would only be, like, maybe a spoonful at a time. Not even really a spoonful, but like half of it. I think it would feel gross to me if I tried to eat a bunch more than that.
Well, and I think that is a good point, because I don't want liver all the time. Like, I want it, and then I have some, and then I'm kind of done. And then I have all this left over that hasn't been eaten. So I got to figure out how to store it. But, like, it's kind of like a multivitamin. Like, you don't need to take 10.
Right.
You need to take 1. And sometimes, and many times, not every day. So you take it for a little while, you top off whatever it was, and then you don't need it. So I wouldn't feel compelled to eat it every day all the time. And I feel like when we start to get into that, that's when we get, this idea, you got to get this supplement, you got to get that supplement, you got to get this supplement. And then it's like, this is back to being like an abusive, ex-boyfriend who's like, come on, do it my way, my way, my way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this constant stress of like, well, for me to do this right, I have to eat this. And it's kind of like what I was thinking about the Atkins thing too, when you're in that maintenance phase of I can do this many calories. Like thinking about why I gotta have liver, because liver's really important, and I'm so scared that meat doesn't give me all the vitamins I need. So I gotta do this much liver, and I gotta do this much water, and I gotta do this much salt, and I have to eat
many egg yolks, and now the egg yolks have to be raw.
Right. And then like also with the meat too, like people will freak out about like, well, how much meat should I eat? Just eat as much as you want.
Yeah.
No one can give you a number, but somebody will say, and they hopefully mean it as a guideline, not just like a straight up, you got to do this, but they'll say like, well, the average person eats like 2 pounds a day. So then there's somebody who's like small, like 130 pounds, and they're like, I can't get through 2 pounds.
Yeah. And I do think that is a really good point, because we have totally seen people say stuff like that. And there was a time when people were saying, okay, you need to have this many milligrams of sodium, this many milligrams of potassium, and this many milligrams of calcium. And there were people who were putting the salt and potassium into like a gelatin capsule and swallowing it because they could not eat that much salt on their foods. And, to me, I was like, this just does not seem right. Like, I can't get on board with doing this. So, I feel like this is one of those things too, where you just have to listen to your body, and that's, and that's what it is. So, we do have someone here, Seabliss, who does do better with, much lower salt. That's just her. I think that's a less common experience, but it's not, it's not never. So, for someone who might be feeling the same way, there are other people who have said that. But I also see, Esther says her blood pressure has always been high, but since doing mostly carnivore and adding more salt, it's normalizing, and her readings have never been this good. So I think
nice.
both of those experiences, need to be out there and let us know. And Pandemic Carnivore says to whoever's going to the doctor, I think that was Martine, make sure you let the doctor know what you're doing so they can monitor your blood pressure if you're on any meds. And honestly, I feel like we're supposed to be checking our blood pressure when we're on blood pressure medication at home. I know my mom had several machines which she never used. But
my mom has one. I don't think she uses it either.
Yeah. So it is something that's supposed to be done, and we're supposed to be checking. So I would encourage you to do that. I see Evelyn says I eat sliced salt pork. Yeah, I found that to be just a little bit too
I can't do it
for me, but I get where you're going with that. Yeah,
I tried. Like I've been trying to. I feel like my body wants more fat now, so. I haven't found a place really close to me that I could get pork belly. So I'm walking around a grocery store and I think, oh, salt pork. That's like basically pork belly, right? Just from the other side of the pig, but it's still a ton of fat. That should be good.
Wait, why is that from the other side?
I'm pretty sure salt pork is from the back of the pig, not the belly.
Oh. I don't know. I thought it was pork belly that was preserved with salting, but I don't know.
Oh, it might be.
I don't know.
And it might be that fat back is actually the back and salt pork comes from the belly. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But yeah. I bought that, and the first bit that I had cooked, I didn't scrape any of the salt off or anything. It was entirely too salty. I couldn't get through it. And then the next pieces, I soaked them in water and then fried them. They were still too salty. But I think if I find some actual fat back that isn't salted, I could do that until I find a good pork belly connect.
Yeah. So, okay. So I see a few more questions. Let's see. Evelyn says, in my last blood workup, my sodium level was below the norm, so I keep packing it in. Yeah. And Broken Prophet says, "Hi everyone, ate a whole packet of bacon today and been hibernating ever since." Sometimes that happens.
Good
That can
hibernation,
happen.
though.
Yeah, yeah. And Pandemic Carnivore says she's sure it must have been good. Um, let's see. And then Siebla says she has a friend who was like that. Her BP used to be chronically low and was a very heavy salter. So, sure.
Mm,
And yeah, Broken Prophet says bacon was amazing.
yeah.
So Carnivore Mystic is a heavy bone broth fan, but wants to try marrow. So what is the obstacle, or why are you not able to find it? I was surprised at how available it is everywhere. I mean, I have to, I have to have my eyes open to see it. But once I was aware of it, it's like, oh, this is kind of everywhere. Now, some places they call it soup bones, or they call them marrow bones, or dog bones even. But it's there.
Yeah. Like so by me, Giant has them, and I wasn't going to Giant often at all because they're more expensive than I like. Their meat's like kind of really expensive, but yeah, they have the marrow bones there, and they're the same price as in the specialty organic store that also has marrow bones. So
Hmm.
I know of now two places within 5 minutes of me that I can get some.
And Broken Prophet says he loves liver. So he loves struggle meals. Yeah.
Yo,
Yeah.
hey there, you shady.
You know, it's okay. It's okay.
Uh, so my
Yeah.
man got struggle plates.
Well, like I said, if you mix it with enough fat, and fat is like universally loved, right? This is, it's the sign that you're living a pleasant and good life, right? The fatter you are, like the more ease and comfort you're having in your life, or historically that's been the case. Those are the animals that we wanted to sacrifice, to slaughter, to eat.
Yep,
So,
that is calf.
yeah, so we care about fat. So adding fat to any food will soften and quote unquote sweeten it, in my opinion. So there you go.
And didn't you say
Um,
onion too?
I
Fat and
didn't say
onion
onion.
to the pate?
Well, I find that delightful and helpful, but it doesn't even take much. I have onion powder. So I don't use a whole onion, but even
Yeah.
just a dash of onion, oh, helps. I mean, in the beginning, I was like, "Oh man, that's not carnivore," and I was trying to do this all animal, but come on, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Um,
onion powder.
yeah. Now I see bacon and liver being universally adored in the chat, and pork rinds.
Mm.
Esther says I have mad cooking skills. Thank you, Esther. If only that were true. I have taught myself a lot and gotten a lot better, but yeah, I feel like I'm put to shame sometimes by some of the things that I see people cooking up in the Facebook group or on Instagram. So I do try though. Thank you. Yeah. So so what yeah, and I see me as like tasting the struggle. Yeah. So any final questions? Because I think we're gonna wrap this up now. Wow, we've had a great conversation. Oh wow, Evelyn loves liverwurst. Mia likes it off and on. Um, and Pandemic Carnivore got some iron and ferritin was in the middle to high within the range without eating liver. Yeah, so
Mm.
it's not essential. It's
Yeah. I,
it's helpful.
yeah, I feel like the whole nose to tail thing, it's all Saladino's fault. Like he takes it so far, and people love optimizing. People love making a thing more complicated than it needs to be, which is like, oh, excuse me, I got a sneeze coming. It's like the exact opposite of what I want to do with my life. I want to make things simple. So if I can just eat, that's what I want to do. I don't want recipes. I just want to eat. I don't want to think about what's in my food, what nutrients are in it, and oh, this steak is going to be good for this, but then tomorrow I got to eat this thing because it's higher in vitamin B12 or some crap like that. I don't know. And I love that actually you could just eat muscle meat and be fine. You can eat liver if you want. You can eat bone marrow and brain and freaking mountain oysters, cow balls, like till the cows come home. You can do all those things. You don't have to, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we have to remind ourselves, people are looking at those, the RDA or, those lists of like nutrients and what beef has, what liver has, what kale has. But remember that they're also looking at one serving. So, for us who are eating, a pound and a half, 2 pounds of meat, like, we're getting ample. So even if you're not eating the powerhouse liver, we're eating enough meat that we're getting the same amount of nutrients that you would get in a smaller portion of liver. And that's fine. So there's no reason that, you have to do it all the time. So, definitely just sort of relax and just focus on the things that you like. And, I experiment because, why not?
Yeah, it's fun.
There are plenty of people that have eaten, a hamburger and bacon every day for like months. So you can do it either way. Yeah.
Right. So Virginia actually looked it up. So salt pork is cut from the belly and the sides, and it sounds like fatback is the same thing, but it's not salted.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah.
It's similar to bacon, but bacon is leaner.
Yeah, and they say that like humans ate a lot more salt up until like maybe 50 years ago because that, or I don't know, 75 years ago, whenever we started getting ice boxes and stuff. But until then, salting was like a major way that food was preserved. So we just had a lot of salt. So yeah,
makes sense.
So I see that Evelyn said she finds it interesting there's so little concerns about getting nutrients during SAD eating. Yeah, how many of us have been like, oh my God, where are you going to get your vitamin C? But, there's no discussion about the foods that they're choosing to eat and what that's about. So,
yeah. And how annoying it is when you have a friend or a family member who goes to a doctor, the doctor says, oh, you have a vitamin deficiency, and they don't tell them, so you need to eat XYZ. They just give them a pill.
Yeah. 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 Or they say, well, it's just common. Everybody does. So here's a prescription.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. So, we're gonna, I see, a lot of fun conversation. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, I think everybody should have a blood pressure monitor at home. I mean, they can be kind of hard to read and kind of iffy, but, do your best. And I do encourage everybody to also get a blood glucose meter and a ketone meter. It is important to be able to test your fasting blood glucose because that's going to tell you a lot about how much healthier you are getting. And it can be really encouraging to see your numbers moving in the right direction. And it can be, really helpful also to see where your ketones are, just, to help you stay motivated. So I can't encourage that enough. And I know people were in the Facebook group doing meat, salt, and water. And, I was encouraging people to keep track of as many of the metabolic syndrome symptoms as they can. And that would be, testing your fasting blood glucose and your blood pressure and testing your waist circumference, measuring, your waist. So that alone can help you get so much healthier.
Yeah, it's huge. Like for a long time, I felt like my weight was stable. I couldn't see any differences, and I hadn't gotten to a point. So I lost a bunch of weight at first, lost probably about 30 pounds. And then I feel like I stalled out, but I was still getting smaller. And in between sizes, I would just weigh myself like every week or two, or not weigh, I would measure myself and see that my waist, like at my actual belly button, was getting smaller. Mm-hmm. And that provided the motivation when I wasn't seeing anything. I couldn't look at myself naked and say, oh yeah, this is smaller, this is better. I couldn't pick up any of that.
Yeah. So it's a little bit harder on women because our smallest part of our waist may not be where the belly button is. But I just say, for us, just pick a spot and just keep measuring that spot. And you want to see that spot get smaller.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, wherever it is. And I would imagine probably, wouldn't you guys measure your bigger spots too? Like,
look, just baby steps, just one spot.
Okay, all right.
Baby steps, okay.
Just an idea.
The waist is the part that is the most dangerous fat. So that's the one you want to lose. The stuff on your behind or your thighs is not so bad. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the most important parts.
And I find that that's like frustrating for a lot of people. They're waiting for like arms to get more toned or legs or butt to get smaller and stuff. And it's like, well, sometimes your body is going to, or it seems like for some people, your body's going to lose visceral fat first. And you might not even see that even in a waist measurement. But another thing that I've heard of people doing, and I've done it myself, is if you lay down on your back and you put a ruler up to your stomach, you can see that, no, this is real. This is what a guy said. This is what a doctor said, not just some random guy. But like that will allow you to measure where your visceral fat is going and see that it's going down.
So as you're laying down and your stomach gets flatter and flatter, that is a sign,
of decreased visceral fat.
That might even be better than trying to do the waist circumference.
I would think so.
Totally gonna do that. Reminds me of as a kid, before there were stretchy jeans, using a hanger to try to zip up my skinny-ish jeans.
Oh, to like give you some leverage and pull it up?
Yeah.
So I think what the guy was saying was that where you want to be is that when you lay down, your stomach slides in, like between your rib cage and your hips.
Okay.
Like, not slides in, but like slides down, because at that point you're laying horizontally. Right.
That's pretty cool. I'm definitely going to try that. So, and I see some people are not organ meat eaters. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Carnivore Mystic, we've definitely heard of Weston A. Price. And I was actually thinking about maybe doing a project. I don't know, some of you may have seen when I did, pulled people together to do a reading of what was that book? It's Stefansson's book about fat of the land. And there was some talk about doing another one, but doing it for a different book. And there was some talk about doing it for a Weston A. Price book, or one that people are less likely to read. So that might be an idea.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
The one thing that I follow them on Instagram, the Weston A. Price Foundation, and I kind of just have to ignore their stuff about like fermented vegetables or the right way to do grains.
Yeah.
The same with Diet Doctor. I have to ignore those posts from them too.
Yeah, Diet Doctor has gone, kind of in a different direction. But they did write about carnivore, and they were basically like, we don't know, so go for it. Which is not, like, encouraging.
There's not a preponderance of evidence that supports. And I'm like, oh, okay. We have a preponderance of evidence that says low carb. We also know that meat has more nutrients in it than plants do, but okay, rock off. Yeah. Like, what, you and your keto ice cream, sure.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what it feels like. And it's like, that's not, that's just not helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So we're going to, we're going to have to bring this to a close, unfortunately, but we have had an amazing conversation. Oh, and Broken Prophet says, did anyone else think that Arien's pick for the stream was a mugshot? So the picture is basically like a snapshot of us in the beginning of this live stream. So, yeah. But no, I didn't think in fact, I thought both of us looked quite attractive, and I was thinking I might just leave this as our
as our pictures from now on.
But yeah, we'll see. Maybe
apparently,
I might change it. Yeah.
Thugged out carnivore.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, wow, there's just a lot of conversation here. I love it. Oh, and the Broken Prophet uses a little wrist BP monitor.
Okay.
I know it's plus or minus, but it's better than not knowing anything. Yeah. I've heard that it's, that people don't get good information about how to actually use a blood pressure monitor, so that they're quite often, very inaccurate, and that even, nurses and professionals have some difficulty. So, you kind of really need to know how you're using it. So I don't know. I kind of feel like I've got this thing. It's telling me all these very specific things that I'm supposed to do, and I don't know if I'm doing them. But yeah, knowing a little something's better than not knowing anything at all.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like the same with the measurements. Like you said, like just pick a place and keep measuring that place. Like for me, they always said belly button, so that's what I did. But it's more important to see your number go down than for it to reach, to like measure it on some absolute range that's based on average values, most likely of white males, which you most likely are not one of. Like, it's more important that you are progressing rather than that you're doing better compared to the standard. Like even now, I've lost like 54 pounds or something, and my BMI still says I'm overweight. I don't care.
Yeah. So we already have said we're throwing out the BMI. It's not even, tested or made for us. So,
Yeah.
So, okay. Wow, there are chatty tonight. I love it. So awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, Pandemic Carnivore. Diet Doctor's getting to be a bit of a moneymaker. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a challenge that, people are always looking to make money. And this way of eating, there's no money to be made in it, because we talk about eating whole foods. So, yeah, I don't know.
You're getting younger every stream. I'll take it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So Abigail says, Diet Doctor led me to keto and to my reproductive endocrinologist, and I will always appreciate the site for that. Yeah. I mean, they provided a lot of resources in the beginning when there wasn't, there was little place to access that. I saw a lot of movies and interviews with, Dr. Eads and, Dr. Georgia Eid. Like, everybody has my name. So, but, yeah. So they provided a lot of information and resources when there wasn't much out there. So that was really helpful. But, I guess I feel frustrated because I feel like, there's so much confusion about how to, to do this diet. And I think it's presenting an obstacle for people rather than drawing more people in. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I look at a lot of people and I say, like, all right, so there's some folks who are like exactly my tribe. Like, Ken Berry feels like my tribe. Mm-hmm. Tony Hampton feels mostly my tribe. Amber O'Hearn feels right there in it. Like, we're on the same page. And then there's other people where I feel like I have to cut away the crap I don't want to get to the things that are useful or are doing me some service of what they bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I think we have to look for that, but also have the grace and willingness to understand that people's positions shift and they
Hmm.
evolve over time too. And I think that in a way, we are normalizing carnivore in a way that even a year ago people might not have felt comfortable with. So. So this is a continuously shifting landscape, and that's something that we have to note as well. But we have to support the people who are supporting and amplifying our message, and definitely get out there and do that. So that's
Right.
pretty cool and exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
So if you're not subscribed, I need you to go ahead and do that.
so
280 to Black Carnivore. Hit the
oh,
subscribe button. Hit the
yes,
bell.
thank
Like
you,
the
thank
video.
you. What's wrong with me? Yes.
You were looking
So
like lost, and I'm like, no, this is you. I'm plugging you.
well, I'm also looking at a comment I don't quite understand. The ZZ Captain is asking about if we know anything about periwinkle, not the plant. So I know the crayon and I know the plants. I don't know what else. Um, it is a lovely color. I totally agree on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. And then Ken Berry feels like my tribe until he talks about smoking.
I
Is
stopped the
he
smoking.
for it or against it? Or
He's
is he?
against it.
Oh, are we talking
And
about meat or cigarettes?
cigarettes, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I mean, but like we said earlier in this video, like smoking causes insulin resistance. Like, it's
Well,
not
it,
good.
it actually releases sugar into your bloodstream. So
Oh, that's
that's
what it
why,
was.
yeah, that's why you don't get hungry. It just releases glucose. So if you're finding that you're having a hard time, and that was something Dr. Atkins said too, which must have been super hard back then because everybody smoked. But
Hmm.
he did say if you are having a hard time getting into ketosis, it might be that you need to quit smoking because that is essentially like every cigarette is like eating a Hershey Kiss. And if you have, one or two an hour, you're doing that all day. So, yeah. Um,
Along with the cancer, like there's that too.
yeah, there's that too. Um, I mean, I totally get it. I love the smoking. Ken Berry is not okay with smoking. So I see there's some confusion now in the chat. Um, but, and I guess ZZ Captain is saying smoking goes to the fat cells. Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a lot of things. And as we learned from reading Gary Taubes, sugar is an intimate part of making cigarettes. So adding sugar, I think what they did was cure the tobacco and sugar, and that allowed you to take a deeper inhale of tobacco without
Mm.
coughing it up. And so it made cigarettes both more pleasurable and more dangerous. And
Mm.
yeah, and that cigarette consumption changed once they added all that sugar. So, and it explains too, Joan Eiflin often talks about the relationship between the tobacco companies and the sugar and processed food companies, and
Yep.
now that makes that makes it clear they already had a relationship with the sugar producers. They were already
Hmm.
connected, and so it makes sense that they would shift and turn from one addictive product to another. So we've just jumped and started talking about there's a woman named Joan Eiflin who has done a lot of research on addictive foods. She's not particularly keto or even necessarily low carb, but she does a
I
lot
think
of
she is
research.
now.
Okay, well, or she may have evolved too, but there's a lot of interesting research on, or she's done a lot of interesting research on the relationship between the tobacco industry and all of these companies that create processed foods. And that relationship really is about creating a product that they know is addictive. They did it before with cigarettes, and, they're essentially doing it again with food. So,
Yeah.
um, that was kind of her point, and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And she's another one that like even if the rest of her doesn't really float your boat, like there is still knowledge to be gained from her. And
Hmm.
she did a podcast with Tony Hampton recently, and I was fascinated the entire time. I had no idea that tobacco companies were buying some of the processed food companies, and then the same scientists that made helped make cigarettes so addictive we're now working on making food addictive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see someone says, Ini Niana says she's been zero carb for about 6 weeks and found a couple weeks ago that her hair is falling out. Is it possible the diet is causing hair loss? So I do hear that from time to time, especially from people who are not following a well-formulated carnivore diet, which is basically eating fatty meats and making sure you get enough fat. And then it can also happen, any massive change in your lifestyle or a massive stress or death or, any of those things can cause a situation where your hair just, a lot of it falls out at once. It's not permanent, it grows back, but that's something that can happen. Have you heard about that, Arien?
I've actually heard the opposite from a lot of people, that the carnivore diet and being, I guess, just like extremely healthy actually re-promotes hair growth. It hasn't happened for me yet, but I'm waiting, I'm hoping.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Mia says it's the opposite, that it tends to grow back thicker and stronger. Yeah, I mean, it's just that sometimes, but if you have a death in the family, or you've suddenly lost a lot of weight, or something has happened, all of those things can cause you to cause something like that to happen. But that's not it's not the diet, it's just the stress of a massive change. I see Robert Moore says, what about cigars? Cigars are also not good for you. Don't smoke those.
Tobacco, period. Let it go. I really thought, so I never smoked cigarettes. I always smoked Black and Milds and cloves and these kinds of cigarillos called blacks. I thought I was doing something different. And I wasn't getting all the tar and crap that are in cigarettes, but I was still smoking tobacco. I still felt the effects of smoking, breathing smoke of tobacco into my lungs and holding it and then exhaling it. It's still not good.
Yeah. And I see Carnivore Mystic has said tobacco has medicinal properties and has been used ritualistically in the Americas by indigenous peoples forever. The slave trade plus sugar plus tobacco industry is closely connected due to crop production. I think that's a good point. Like I was saying, the tobacco is more easily inhaled and more nicotine can be delivered in with each inhale because the sugar allows for you to inhale more of it, and it deadens, I guess, the cilia and all the stuff that in your lungs. So it's that combination that makes maybe makes cigarettes more powerful and dangerous, whereas tobacco being smoked in a more traditional way, without it hasn't been treated with all the sugar, maybe you're consuming less and so on. Now, and when we talk about plants, I want to be clear, a lot of medicine, it comes from plants. So, we're not opposed to medicine. Use medicine when you need it. Use things medicinally. So there are certain things that may be worth using, and there may be reasons why you might, not tobacco, but nicotine is kind of considered like a nootropic. If you use it in targeted specific ways, it can, help improve your, mental functioning and so on. So there are people, and this is sort of a biohack thing, so I know Arien's probably not on board with it, but there are people in Silicon Valley who are using all of these things to just try to get an edge and be better at what they do. So, so that's something to consider. But, just picking up a pack of Marlboros, that might not get you where you're going.
Yeah, and I will at least say for the biohacker crowd, the farther you take a thing away from its natural form, the more likely you are to have a stronger, desired effect and the negative effect as well.
Yeah.
It would be, if the only way we could consume sugar would be to actually eat a beet or to chew on sugarcane, things would be a lot different.
Yeah.
It's the refinement that has made it 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. And Pandemic Carnivore says, watch the 7 big tobacco companies testify in front of Congress back in the 70s. It's shocking. Yeah, they just flat out lied, just denied and lied. So I don't know. Maybe we will. I mean, who knows? It might take 20 years, but maybe we'll have PepsiCo and Mars and all those other companies, testifying too. And maybe we'll find out that these things that we found so difficult to just eat one of. I mean, I talk about M&Ms all the time, but that was a tough one for me. That was one of the last ones that really left. Like, it's hard. I get it, and I believe that I am addicted, and so I recognize I can't just eat a little bit. So so there you go. All right, so we have had an amazing and long conversation tonight. I so appreciate a million of you for staying here for this whole time.
Right.
I hope you had a good time. I hope you really enjoyed enjoyed the conversation, that you learned something, and I'm really excited to to see so many of you thrive and do well in this way of eating. I see a lot of people who are getting started and really starting to feel some success, and and as you progress in this journey, you're going to find that it's just a different life. You're a different person. You have a different level of energy. You're not just losing a little weight. A whole lot of things are going to start happening.
Yeah, it is a total. You end up changing your lifestyle, and your life changes in ways that you don't think fathomable. You probably look at us and hear our stories, and you're like, "Oh, that's cool. That'd be great if that actually happens," and you kind of don't believe it, and it will hit you. I didn't think it. I thought I was just curing IBS, and no, it went way farther than that.
Yeah. Wait, people are listing their trigger foods. Yeah, Miss Vicky's jalapeno kettle cooked potato chips. We're of one mind. I'm with you on that. Totally get it.
Jalapeno kettle cooked.
Yeah.
Wow.
McDonald's fries. Yep. Okay, so but let's not go down that rabbit hole. Let's not. Made in Satan's kitchen. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So on that note, I love talking to you guys. We will be back next Tuesday, and next Tuesday we have Dr. Tanya coming back, who's a radiation oncologist. We had an amazing conversation with her in our Zoom groups last month, and I'm really excited to have an opportunity to bring her to the group. She really has amazing information. I learned so much about cancer. As many of you know, my mom passed of cancer earlier this year in February, and it was really enlightening to hear some of the things that Dr. Tanya was saying. So I actually, after talking to her, I firmly believe that we can prevent most of the risk of getting cancer. So unless I live next door to a reactor, I think that I got a pretty good shot of making it to 100. That's the plan, guys. That's the plan. So, I encourage you to be here next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and looking forward to it. Yeah. All right, guys. All right, good night. Good night. I never waving in the right place. All right, bye, guys.